and I would like always to speak while you see my face, so that you can even know what I pronounce. Whether I pronounce it badly, you know the word, and you get it later. I'm very, very privileged this evening to meet her. The first time I met Ezra, who were in Berlin. From Berlin, she traveled all the way to Uganda, and in February we are together in Kampala. Now today we are together here. She is by my side. I think she has taken a right side on to be on my left. Yeah, I'm also privileged to have Madame Ilse. Okay. She came all the way from the Netherlands and up to my own home village. And today we are meeting for the second time. Yeah, I'm glad to see you. I met her in Belgium, and we are together here. We went all together to the European Union Parliament, and we fulfilled an appointment. And we had her at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Welcome here, but the name is very difficult. But I recognize her presence with honor. You're welcome, madam. So, she has been giving us an overview of actually what our presence here is. And I'm glad to share with you the real story of what really happened. And before I go into that, I would like to stress what really access to natural resources has to do with the right food. In the context of a developed country like the Netherlands, it is very difficult for you to link the access to food to access to natural resources. Also, most of the food we want is got from the supermarket. I don't think you know the process of production and everything, unless you want to be specialized for that side and they know. But if not that, you know that food is obtained from the supermarket, and that is all. And sometimes I was doing teaching in urban schools, and I told people, the pupils, to tell me where the food comes from. Sincerely, those who were linked to the rural were telling me food is got from the garden. And those who were linked to the urban, they told me food is got from the market. And I only wanted one answer. Then I had to come back to my senses and say, no, this child is correct and this one is correct. So I derived to have two answers. So, really, in the developing countries, there is a great link between access to natural resources and the right to food, because we derive our food from access to natural resources. Each of the families producing for its own consumption, and the surplus is what we sell in the local markets and sometimes for export. So, she has been mentioning something, the operation of transnational companies and their threat to the right food of the small farmers. And in her review, she was mentioning the Neumann Kaffee Gruppe, which is operating in Uganda in the name of Kayiira Coffee Plantation Limited. This is a 10-year-old story, but I would like to summarize it to make point to you. And maybe if you want more about this story, we can go through the process of interjection in questions. I know there will be a question session. Around the year 2001, the government of Uganda went into negotiations to offer land for the Neumann Kaffee Gruppe in Uganda to start their operations. We, the people who are going to be affected by this problem, we are not involved at all. We are not consulted. We are not informed. But negotiations went on. After they had agreed and everything had been done, that's when a little of the information was given to us. On August 18th, 2001, the government invited all the inhabitants of the land to a meeting. How did they know these people? They had made an aerial survey of the land. So they stated the people they wanted in terms of villages. From such a village, from such a village, from such a village. So they knew. So I was among those who participated in this meeting because I'm part of the inhabitants of the village. So we went. And then government mentioned that we people who were living in that land, in those villages mentioned, 4 villages, we had to quit the land because the government had allocated it for an investor, a German investor, who was going to start developing a coffee plantation. In many cases, we have been blaming such mistakes to the absence of law. But in the case of Uganda, the law was very much in presence and abundance. And I knew this law pertaining our ownership. Then, I did not see how the government would go against the laws to take away our land from us without consulting us, without our consent. Well, I thought maybe it was kind of a joke. Because here I have the National Constitution of the Republic of Uganda. And in it, we have an article which guarantees the citizens of Uganda ownership of property. That is Article 26. And in it, we also have an article which guarantees the people of Uganda ownership of land. That is Article 237. It is very funny and very different. I recognized there is a friend of mine from Kenya told me, I'm glad to meet you here, my neighbor, to the east. But our laws are very different in the whole of the East African region regarding land. Because in the rest of the states, it's the state which owns land, which is very different in our case. In our case, it is the people of Uganda who own the land. In Article 237, it is clearly mentioned, stated, all land belongs to the citizens of Uganda. Then we have these game reserves, natural resources, and lakes. Again, even these ones, they are not owned by government. Government holds them in trust for the people. So, the whole of it is our property. So, the constitution is good for the people. Now, I wouldn't know that they would go against this constitution. Now, this constitution also recognizes the tenants on land. These tenants on land were there customarily, and then land was subdivided by the 1900 agreement, which was signed between the British colonial masters and the leaders of them, where land was privatized. It was divided between what is private and what is public. What was to remain public belonged to the Queen of England. And at that time, it was referred to as Crown land. After independence, this is what we refer to as public land. But even registered land, where someone holds a private title, the Constitution gives security of tenure, customary security of tenure to the person, the individuals who occupy the land. And this is provided for in the Article 237, Clause 8. And Clause 9 of that article stated that the first parliament to sit, to be elected under this constitution, in not more than 2 years, enact a law to activate the Article 237, particularly Clause 8, which states there will be bona fide and lawful occupants on land as constitutional owners. So, pursuant to that, this law was made. This is the Land Act 1998. It has been amended several times, but again, the security of tenure on tenants on land is guaranteed and protected. Again, there was another law which was enacted to regulate investment in Uganda. What type of investments are allowed and what are not allowed, particularly for the foreign investors. So, this is the Investment Code Act 1991. This law clearly regulates how investment can be conducted in Uganda. And in its section 10, subsection 2, it rules out foreign investors from doing agriculture in our country. So, the Neumann Kaffee Group did not only violate our human rights, but they also broke the law. So, given all these good laws, how comes that we were evicted? So, what I was trying to drive at, sometimes we have made a lot more legislations. They are in place. But how are these legislations implemented? It should be the issue. Just as the theme for FIAN is running, hunger at trial. At least we should bring hunger to trial. This is how all these national, regional, and international legal frameworks are going to be tested. So the negotiations went on, and in the meeting of 18th, it was started. But then I called a meeting again in the village. Called the people. You see, people, what is going to happen is not good for us. Let us now also address government our problems, because we have our ownership, the constitutional ownership to protect. So we hired a lawyer to address government, and there was exchange of letters. Now in that meeting, we were told that we were going to quit that land not later than 31st of August. It was on 18th of June, but the deadline was 31st of August, barely 2 months to prepare and go. Going where? Don't ask, but just go. Then, amidst that hot exchange, government came back again and said, no, I'm even reducing the days. You people, you should go away before 15th of August. Was it true? Were we dreaming? But it was true. Then there was again another hot exchange. And finally, on 17th of August, the government sent their officers to tell us to quit land that night. It was around 5 p.m. So that night we were not to sleep there. Whoever would be found there the next morning would see it for themselves. But we did not go. And on 18th of August, the government drove in the army and evicted us. Forcefully, against our will, no compensation, no alternative to go to, but just run away. So in that part of the country, some of the families still live in houses which are thatched with grass. Those ones which had grass roofs, the army just set fire on the houses. All the property down. Beat up people, so we had to run away. The whole land was controlled by the army. Then I said, oh, it has happened. But I promised I'd go to court. So, what do? I gathered all the people registered them. But some feared that government would come back to kill them if they got caught. So I left those ones. Those ones I registered, I have on my list 401 families with a population of 2,041 people. But the number who were evicted is bigger than that. Now, I organized the people and said, no, let's go to court. We had hired a lawyer, I told you, to address government. And government was so wise to undermine our efforts of going to court. What did they do? Immediately they had evicted us in August. In October, in October that year, they appointed our lawyer, Mr. Mwesgwaro Kutana, to become the Minister of State for Finance and in charge of foreign investments. In charge of investments. You can see, then I thought about it so wisely. This guy had a developed conflict of interest. How would he, the lawyer in the chambers, think about going contrary to a minister in the cabinet? Since it was impossible, then we had to improvise another way of finding another lawyer. It was a little bit difficult, but I managed to. And now, according to that constitutional showing, there is a provision, at that time it had not been amended. If the government offended its people, the people were only given 365 days to take government to court. If you fail to make it in the 365 days, then the case against government would be time-barred. So I had only 365 days to work in to make all this. So I had to find a new lawyer. Then he advised me, go do this, this, and that. Time was running, and I had to make it. Finally, I made it. On 9th of April 2002, we issued a statutory notice to sue to the government and the company. That one has to last 45 days. Then the government came in and they said, no, you people don't go to court. You see, we are going to appoint a committee to handle your case. It will be finished. And you have representatives on that committee. I said, okay. I told my group, I'm going in for the legal side. Another group can be appointed among us to go on the negotiation side. What we want is redress. But I know these people, they are not going to deliver. And it was true. They only wanted to buy more time such that the constitutional 365 days can go. Eventually, on the 15th of August, we managed to file the suit against the two, the government of Uganda and the company. A lot has taken place. But another thing which I want to point out clearly is that even poverty is one of the reasons why justice is not delivered. Why? When we sued the company made an application to court that they were sure they were going to win the case, but the people who had taken the company to court were too poor to pay the costs of the suit if the company won the suit. So they asked us to deposit money to the court. At that time, they wanted 400 million. And out of the 400 million, at least we deposit 200 million. Where would we get that money? And this application had been had, and the company won the case, the application, and the court ordered us to deposit 20 million shillings if we wanted to go to court with the company. And this we should do in 30 days. And if we did not manage to make it in 30 days, then the case against the company would stand dismissed. Do you see that? Now, where would we get this 20 million? This is something like, at that time, it was something like $10,000. Where would we get all this? Nowhere. But it was so fortunate that I had come in contact with different human rights organizations, and thanks to actually International Uganda, because they managed to raise this money It is now in court, and we are hopeful that the case will come to a conclusion and the ruling will be in our favor. What did I want to point out? That poverty is one of the elements of injustice that exacerbate injustice in society. Because if we were not strong enough financially, then our case would stand dismissed against the company. And the company now will be enjoying impunity. But we are hopeful that. So, seeing all this has been not very simple. So we started working with these human rights organizations, actually International Uganda. Then in 2003, around October, we came in link to FIAN Germany, and FIAN Germany and FIAN International started working with us. They had to make a fact-finding mission to Uganda, and eventually they had to publish a report. By publishing the report, they wanted 2 witnesses from our group, so they invited me and another lady from our group. I went all the way to Germany. We had a nice time there. We were able to meet different actors in this case. The Minister of Foreign Affairs, Minister of Economic and Technology, the company headquarters in Hamburg. So a lot was done. But we were promised some solution, but nothing has come up to now. But then, I want to tell you, to share with you another problem that maybe brings this impunity. After our visit to Germany, the company complained to government that, you know, this guy is on our neck. So the government decided to improvise a way of making me a little bit smaller than I was proving. So, around September that year, I was summoned to police. In Uganda, I'm a teacher. I'm a head teacher, heading one of the schools in primary section. The head teacher is the accounting officer in the school. You have to account for all resources, human resource and financial resource. Everything is on your head. So government made an allegation that some money had gone missing in my school. So they wanted me to answer charges of that. I told the police, go and make investigations. They met. They found no case. And then the government was on their neck that the guy has to go to prison. You must make a case against him. Finally, on 20th of January 2005, a case was written against me for embezzling my school's money and therefore causing financial loss to a government institution. In Uganda, according to the law, I could apply for court bail, but in high court, because this one was a capital offense and we were in the lower court. Therefore, I could not apply for bail in the lower court. I could only apply for court bail in the higher court. And court bail can be granted only on 2 grounds. One, you must be old. What does this mean? That you are over 50 years of age. I was still so young, so I could not benefit from this ground. Then another one, it would be if you have been proven sick, that the sickness you have cannot allow you to stay in prison. I was not sick, even up to now, I'm not sick. So I could not benefit from the 2 grounds. Therefore, I had to battle it out with the evidence of court. So I stayed in prison for 157 days. The state produced 5 witnesses at court. But all of these 5 witnesses proved hostile to the state. What does it mean? All of them were giving testimonies of how well I had managed the school and the funds. All of the 5 accounted for the funds themselves. Then eventually, my lawyers told the judge, who was in charge of the case, that we were not going to make a defense because the government had failed to make a case against me. Then the attorney general said, no, we have made our case. Then the two sides started to make submissions. And on 28th of June, the judge delivered his ruling that actually I had no case to answer before him. Therefore, I was acquitted for no case to answer. Why do I bring this? I want to show you that the government has all the powers to make all possible efforts to suppress the peasants and whatever the case may be. So we went through all this, but FIAN, in its way of mechanism, they have periodic campaigns. They go on scaling up from the first one, bigger and bigger. So they have been involved in different letter campaigns. So these ones are a little bit putting more and more pressure. Government had it in mind that our case would be controlled at the local level. But now it is at the international level. They also had it in mind that we would not persist for all this time. Maybe they thought the case would be on for something like a month or 3. But it is 10 years, but it is as fresh as if it happened last night. Yes. So, what do I want to drive at? That the legislations we make can be good, but if we cannot help populations, societies to stand up, to demand for what belongs to them, I think we will be in a total mess. Now, every time we have been mentioning this case, the government has always been politicizing it, telling others that I and those others who talk like I are politicians of the opposition side. That they don't like the developments the government is making in the country. Fortunately, immediately after the eviction, the Minister of Finance, Planning and Economic Development dispatched a team in several districts of the country to research into why poverty was increasing in the population of Uganda, while the government was doing its good efforts to reduce poverty. So this is a report by the Minister of Finance, Planning and Economic Development. The study was given this title, Uganda Participatory Poverty Assessment Process, UPPAP. You can get reports from the Ministry of Finance in Uganda. I don't know whether you have it on their website or they removed it because it is making them ashamed. But I have this copy. Now, when we started this case, this report was not yet published. But now, I have the authority to speak the way I want. Not the way I want, the way it was. Because even government spoke the way I speak. So, if you feel that you have had that kind of information, particularly her, she was asking me, she got information from the government which is contrary to what I told her. Yes, I told her. Did you read this? Unfortunately, she has not. But I'll give her copies of this such that she can compare her notes, what she got in Uganda, and what is written here. So if you cannot take my word, at least you can take word of government. Briefly, this is what I had, but I know the story is 10 years old, and a lot has to be said, but I had to focus on the point of impunity. Maybe lastly, I have to make a small comment on the court process at this time. As I told you, FIAN works through different campaigns, and of recent there has been a letter campaign going on, and some peaceful demonstrations taking place in the Ugandan embassies in Europe and India. I have been informed, I know, and I appreciate. Thank you very much, whoever has participated. Now, FIAN International Secretariat wrote a letter addressed it to the principal judge in Uganda, and the principal judge is the officer who is responsible for seeing the day-to-day running of the judicial system in the country. Whether it is appointing judges or seeing what they do, it is the principal judge. So this letter was addressed to him, and when he received it, he forwarded this letter to the judge who is in charge of our case. She received it, but I think in mixed feelings. She perceived that we were choosing her of the blame, but then it served her right. What we want is justice. Justice delayed is justice denied. 10 years of impunity. So she received the letter, and we were at court on the 1st of November this year. So our two counterparts, the company and the government, were not there, but we were there. So after being furious for some of us, particularly me, working with you people at the international community to press her to do justice for us, she cooled it down. And in her new turn of the hearing, she said that the absence of the parties involved in the case at court is the cause of the delay to justice. So she ruled out that on the next subsequent hearings, she is not going to tolerate absentees. If the parties have been served with